Hello, my students. I'm your biology teacher, Cikgu Govin. Our topic today is topic chapter 9, ecosystems, and our subtopic is 9.1, community and ecosystem. Here are the learning standards. There are 8 learning standards for these subtopics. In this video, I will cover learning standard number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. And next video, I will cover learning standard number 5 until 8. Okay, number 1. Defines the terms species, population, community, habitat, niche, and ecosystems. Number 2, identify biotic and abiotic components in ecosystems. Number 3, explain autotrophic and heterotrophic nutrition. Number 4, communicate about biotic components according to trophic levels. Look at these diagrams. This diagram shows ecosystem of a savanna. Okay, this is an overview what we're going to learn in the subtopics. You can see species of deer here, and then this is populations of deer, and this is community. You can see different species in this same habitat interacting with each other, and then this is ecosystems. Organisms do not just interact with each other, but they also interact with non-living things to create a balanced system known as ecosystems. Actually, we learned about ecology. Ecology is a study of interactions among organisms, as well as the interactions between organisms and their surroundings. Okay? Community and ecosystems. Habitat is the natural surrounding or the living place of an organism. Okay? Look at this photograph. Habitat of birds in the forest, okay? And then this is habitat of a frogs in the ponds. If you keep fish in an aquarium, the aquarium is not a fish habitat, okay? Because the habitat must be the natural place of the fish. Okay, this is the terms you must understand or concept you must understand in these subtopics. Species. A species is a group of similar organisms able to interbreed and produce offspring. For example, here is clownfish. Okay, and a population is a group of organisms of the same species which live in the same habitat. Okay, this is a populations of clownfish. And then a community is the populations of all organisms from different species living in the same habitat while interacting with each other. Okay, this is fish community in the sea. Okay, there are different species living together in the same habitat. Okay, and ecosystems. An ecosystem is a few communities that live together in a habitat and interact with each other, including non-living components, abiotic, such as water, air, and soil. Okay, this is marine ecosystems. Okay, niche. A niche is the role of an organism in an ecosystem, which include its behavior and interactions with biotic and abiotic components in the surrounding of its habitats. So niche can be divided into ecological niche and species niche. Ecological niche is the role of a species in its surroundings, and species niche is the way in which the species interact with biotic and abiotic components within its surrounding. Example of ecological niche is the feedless dung beetle occupy an ecological niche, exploiting animal droppings as a food source. Okay, the niche of an organism can vary according to the morphological chains of an organism. For example, the life cycle of a butterfly has a metamorphosis that consists of different niches at each stage of its life. For example, egg stage, caterpillar stage, pupa stage, and adult butterfly. An ecosystem consists of two main components, which are biotic components and abiotic components. Biotic components refer to all organisms in an ecosystem which interact with other organisms, whilst abiotic components is all the non-living elements, include their physical and chemical characteristics that can affect an organism in an ecosystem. Biotic components consist of producer, consumer, and decomposer, while abiotics consist of pH value, temperature, light intensity, microclimate, topography, and air humidity. pH value. pH value of soil strongly influences the distributions of living organisms in a habitat. Most organisms are capable of living adequately in a condition in which the pH value is either neutral or almost neutral. Soil is a habitat for 100 million of worms and microorganisms such as bacteria, fungi, and protozoa. A little change in pH value disrupts the activity of microorganisms that live in the soil and reduce its fertility. Soil is inhabited by many earthworms and microorganisms which can maintain the fertility of the soils. Temperature. Surrounding temperature affects the physiological activity of plants and animals. A little change in temperature causes a reduction in the metabolic rate of organisms, as all the enzymes that catalyze physiological responses are sensitive towards temperature changes. Although most organisms can live within the temperature range of 20 to 40 degrees Celsius, there are also organisms which can live in extreme temperature. For example, polar bear live in tundra, a habitat with a temperature of negative 14 degrees Celsius, whereas foxes can live in the desert where the temperature can reach up to 45 degrees Celsius during the day. This is an example of animal that can live in extreme temperature. Light intensity. Light intensity and durations of sunlight received by a certain regions can strongly influence the distributions of an organism, especially for plants that carry out photosynthesis. Taller plants in tropical rainforests that are exposed to high light intensity from a canopy, providing low light intensity underneath. Only small plants, such as ferns, can grow under the canopy. Coniferous forests in regions with temperate climate have lower density of plants due to low light intensity. Plants in coniferous forests are shorter as well as smaller in size. This is tropical rainforest and this is coniferous forests. Microclimates. Microclimate refer to the climate conditions of a small area which is different from the surrounding area. Microclimate can take place under the rocks, for example, millipedes that live under the rocks, or beneath the shade of bigger plants of the forest canopy like these ones. Microclimate depends on temperature, humidity, light intensity, heat balance, atmospheric pressure, water evaporations, and ability of soil to retain water around an area in order to maintain humidity. Topography. Topography is the physical characteristics on the surface of the Earth, which include altitude, gradient, and aspects. Topography determines humidity, temperature, and light intensity in ecosystems. Altitude. The higher the altitudes, the lower the relative humidity, atmospheric pressure, and oxygen content. Plants at different levels of altitude are different in types, size, and density. For example, pine trees that grow at higher altitudes are smaller in size compared to Meranti tree, which can be found in tropical rainforests. Gradient. Steeper mountain slopes are easily eroded due to swiftwater movements. The soil layer becomes thinner and drier. This area has less growth of plants except for some short, thorny shrubs with small and pointed leaves. Aspects. Aspect refer to direction in which wind blow and ray of sunlight. A mountain slope which faces the sea has denser plants compared to one facing toward the lands. This slope also gain more rainfall distributions. The slope that receives more sunlight is denser with plants. Air humidity. Air humidity is the quantity of water vapor in the air which affects the distributions of organisms in the habitat. There are more organisms occupying area of high humidity than in dry area. Low air humidity increases the water loss in a stoma through transpirations. This situation enhances the absorption of water and mineral salt from the soils. Transpiration also provides a cooling effect, therefore plants can maintain optimum temperature for enzyme activity. This photograph shows a rhinoceros. A rhinoceros has a big body and as a consequence, the ratio of its total surface area per volume is small. Therefore, the rate of heat released from the skin is low. On hot day, the rhinoceros often wallow in the muddy water. When the mud dry up, it forms a layer which protects the skin of the rhinoceros from heat of the sun. There are two types of nutrition, which are autotrophics and heterotrophics. Autotrophics consist of photoautotrophics and chemoautotrophics, whereas heterotrophics consist of saprotrophics, holozoic, and parasitics. Photoautotrophics. Photoautotrophs refer to organisms that synthesize complex organic compounds from carbon dioxide together with light energy. Photoautotrophs synthesize their own food via the process of photosynthesis. Example here is green plants. Chemoautotrophics. Chemoautotrophs include a few types of bacteria which synthesize organic compounds without using light. Chemoautotrophs gain energy from the oxidations of inorganic substances such as hydrogen sulfide and ammonia through chemosynthesis. Example here is Nitrobacter. Saprotrophics. Saprotrophes are saprophytic organisms which gain their nutrients from dead and decaying organic substances. Digestion occurs outside the body of an organism before the nutrients are absorbed into its body. Example here is fungi. Holozoics, an organisms that survive by eating solid organic substances which are then digested and absorbed into the body. Most animals, including human beings, are holozoic. Example here is squirrels. Parasitics. Parasites are organisms that absorb nutrients from the host. For example, flea and tapeworms get nutrients from their human host. Example here is a flea. Biotic components according to trophic levels. Biotic component consists of producer, decomposer, and consumer. Consumer can be divided into three: primary consumer, secondary consumer, and tertiary consumer. Okay, we look at producer first. Autotrophs synthesize organic substances from inorganic materials. Producer consists of green plants which synthesize glucose from water and carbon dioxide with the help of energy from sunlight. So example here is paddy plants. Paddy plants can carry out process of photosynthesis. The next one is primary consumer. Example here is caterpillar. Herbivore which gain energy by feeding on producer. The next one is secondary consumer. Carnivore which feed on primary consumer, or omnivore which feed on primary consumer and producer. Okay, omnivore can feed on primary and producer. Okay, and then the last one is tertiary consumer. Carnivore which feed on secondary consumer. Okay, example here is fox. Okay, feed on birds. And the last one is decomposer. Microorganisms decompose waste substances as well as dead or decaying organisms into simpler organic substances such as carbon dioxide and ammonia. Okay, example here is fungi. That's all for today. See you in the next lessons. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.